Hello and welcome to Basic Song Service lesson number 3. Let's go. All right, in this video, we're going to focus on one topic, and that topic is strumming technique. This is critical for playing song service, of course. If you've been practicing your chords, memorizing them, developing those finger calluses as we've gone over in previous videos, then you should be ready to go over strumming technique. And once we go over this, and of course you take the time to practice your strumming technique, transitioning your chords, you should be able to play any song really. And so after this video, I do encourage you to take some song service music, song sheets. If you need some song service songs, let me know. I can post some on the website. But take those, go and implement some of the strumming patterns we're going to go over in this video, and you'll be well on your way to playing some guitar. In the coming videos, we'll go into a little more detail with things like style and other technique stuff. But after 3 lessons, as long as you've been practicing, you should be able to start playing some actual songs. Hopefully that's exciting for you guys. I know producing the actual songs, on the instrument that you're playing is what the goal is. And so that's been my goal, to get you guys there. So with that, let's get started on strumming technique. The first thing I want to go over is timing. So every time you're strumming, whether it's a down or an up strum, it's tied to time. And so, as I've mentioned in times past, our songs are mostly in a 4/4 time signature, which means there's 4 counts to every measure. So you can tie all of our songs to a 4-count pattern. So what I want to do first is I want to go over strumming to a simple 4-count pattern. So what we're going to do for starters is we're going to go through a 4-count, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to slow it down, and we're just going to down strum on each one of those counts, all right? And so you can see on the diagram on the picture how it all works out. So basically what I'll do is I'll illustrate the pattern with the count. A D represents a down strum, a U represents an up strum. So what I want you to do is connect with all 6 strings. We'll just play the chord of E, just to keep it simple. And toward the end, maybe we'll go over a couple songs. That way you guys can get an idea of what it sounds like to some actual music, all right? But for now, down strum on each count, and then we'll move on from there, all right? So get your E set, and it should sound just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty simple, all right? So then we're going to take it a step further. What we're going to do is we're going to split those notes, which are called quarter notes. We're going to split them into what's called eighth notes. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to stick an and in between each number. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So basically we're going to double time our strumming. Same approach, we're going to do down strums for every one of those counts. 1 and also on the in-between, your counts and on the in-betweens, all right? Down strum on all of them, and this is how it would sound. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Start there, just get familiar, start with the basic pattern. If you would like, pause the video, practice this a couple times over. And then what you can also begin to do is implement some chord changes. Pick another chord, one of the ones that you've been practicing. Feel free to pick an easy one and switch. Do 2 4-count patterns and then switch without stopping to your next chord and do 2 more 4-count patterns. That way you can practice transitioning in time without any pauses. Because of course when you're playing a song, the song doesn't pause just so we can switch our chords. So you want to make sure you develop transitioning in time and being able to keep that consistent strum, all right? I mentioned an up strum. A down strum, you generally connect with all the strings, all 6 strings, unless it's not a 6-string note chord. So What you can do on an up strum, though, is generally you don't play all 6 strings. Generally, when you're playing an up strum, you're playing probably the top 3 strings, sometimes 4, give or take, but don't worry about connecting on all the strings with an up strum, okay? So what we're going to do next is we're going to take that 4-count pattern with 8th notes, so the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and what we're going to do is we're going to alternate down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, all right? So your down strums will be on the 1 through 4, and then your up strums are going to be on all the ends, okay? Hope that makes sense there. So playing an E chord, this is how that would sound. All right, so we've already gone over, 3 strumming patterns. Just start to practice those. You don't have to move as quickly as I am, of course, in one video. I'm trying to give you enough material to be able to practice over the span of about 3 weeks until the next video is released. One of the challenges you'll face is being able to develop a strumming pattern that ties to fast songs, all right? So we've been learning, we've started off with learning, 8th note strumming pattern. Well, what you can do, first of all, to develop more strumming technique is you can write out a 4-count on whatever device you'd like to use. Write it out on a sheet of paper, doesn't matter. Write your ands in between those numbers. And then what you'll do is on every number, 1 through 4, will be a down strum. Your up strums will be on all the in-betweens, on the ands, all right? So what you can do from that point is you can pick and choose where you want to down strum and where you want to up strum, all right? Keeping them tied to those numbers, of course. So let's say, for example, I did a down strum on 1, on 2, and then an up strum on 3, or on 2N, excuse me, and then a down strum on 4. So 1, 2, 2 and 4. And then just practice that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So just an example, and you can make it a little more complex. You can add a 3 in there. So 1, 2 and 3, and then a down strum on 4, and then try out that pattern. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So really, sky's the limit. Of course, you're tied to the 4-count pattern, but you can change up however you want to. And just to get some exposure on different types of patterns, start it slow. Play on a metronome. Start your metronome at, let's say, 60 beats per minute. You can even drop it to 50 just for starters. Get your pattern down and then build up from there, all right? Pick up the tempo, get up to over 100 beats per minute. That way, you start to develop an ear for how that pattern would sound at a faster pace. Because, trust me, it's hard to be able to count at a full speed of a fast song. You're not going to do it. Eventually, you're going to memorize how it sounds. Your muscle memory is going to kick in and how it's being played with your strumming hand, and that's how you're going to know that you're playing the right strumming pattern for that particular song. So just to wrap up this video, as I mentioned before, I do want to tie this to some songs. All right, so the first song I want to go over with a more advanced strumming pattern is the song God is Greater. This song was introduced at the Prescott Conference a number of years ago. At least that's the first place I heard it at. This is basically how the strumming pattern works. You're going to have 8th notes for this, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then a second 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then it'll cycle back around, all right? So this is how the pattern works, and I'll put up a diagram for you so you guys can see it. I'll also attach it on the PDF that ties to this video, okay? What you're going to play is a down strum on 1, a down strum on 2, a down strum on 3, up strum on 3 and, a down strum on 4, an up strum on 4 and, an up strum on 1 and of the next measure, an up strum on 2 and, an up strum on 3 and, a down strum on 4, and an up strum on 4 and. All right? Sounds kind of crazy, might seem overwhelming at first, but take it really slow and then build up to the full tempo, okay? So what I'll do is I'll just play an E, just for example, so you can hear the pattern, and then I'll start to tie it to the actual song, okay? So here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. All right, so what complicates it, of course, is now you have to transition chords while you lock in that strumming pattern. So I highly recommend pick a chord. Doesn't matter what the chord is. Lock in that strumming pattern. First and foremost, get that strumming pattern down. Try to build up your speed, and then after that point, try to practice switching your chords, all right? That way, you know, you're developing that practice of locking in one piece, and then you can implement the other versus trying to do both at the same time. It might be kind of overwhelming and possibly even discouraging. We don't want to go there. So take it one step at a time, all right? So then if I were to tie it to the actual song of God is Greater, I'm going to play the introduction of the song, which is G, E minor, D, and C, okay? So start slow, and then we'll build up from there. That way you guys can hear how I play it at a full tempo. Now, let me also say this. Strumming styles can vary. This is just the style that I have developed, or the pattern that I have developed, and I feel it ties really well to a lot of these types of songs. God is Greater, Savior of the Nations, King of Kings, Can't Stop, Song of the Redeemed, Burning Me. There's tons of songs out there with this specific beat or tempo that you can use this strumming pattern for, all right? So let's give a demonstration of how to play it with the actual intro of God is Greater, okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. All right, so now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and speed it up, okay? So I'll start at a slower tempo and then gradually build up to pretty much a full speed, all right? So here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... full tempo right here. So there's an example of taking it from slow to fast. Like I said, take your time. You'll get there. Don't allow yourself to get discouraged just because you get a bit frustrated in trying to get that pattern down. Practice makes perfect. You'll get there, okay? The other song that I want to go to is a song called Freedom. This one gets a little more technical because we're going to break out of just our 8th note pattern. We're going to actually jump into 16th notes. And so What that basically means is you're doubling your eighth notes to 16 notes per measure. Instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, there's 8 notes in that count. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a E and a before and after the and. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. All right, so then what you'll do is you'll tie this strumming pattern to that type of count. All right, and the reason why it's that type of count is because you're moving your hand up and down pretty fast, okay? So this is how the strumming pattern works for this song. All right, so first you're going to do a down strum on 1. On the A, it's going to be an up strum, the 1A. The 2E is another up strum. The 2 and is a down strum. The 3E is an up strum. The 3A is an up strum. 4 is a down strum. And then you're going to wrap it up on a down strum on 4 and an up strum on 4A, all right? So study the diagram above me, start it really slow, and then build up, of course, okay? So what I'll do is I'll scale back the tempo. That way you guys can follow along, and then I'll give a demonstration of building up to full speed, okay? 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. Right? So your brain might be smoking after going over these past 2 strumming patterns, but like I said, start it slow, build up from there, okay? All right, so now I'll demonstrate how the song sounds from a slow tempo gradually building up to a faster tempo, okay? 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E second chord after this next 4 count. Back to the E. And a little faster. Pretty much full tempo. All right, so there you go. Now, you might have some what I would call like muted strums, dead strums, whatever you want to call it, in between while you're switching, just because switching and getting a full chord sound can be kind of hard sometimes, but a small muted chord in between is fine, but make sure you keep it at very minimal level of dead strums or muted strums. You don't want your whole strumming or your whole song to be muted because you're trying to switch to your other chords. That's where the transition practice comes into play. All right, so there you go, giving you a wide range of strumming patterns that you can use for slow and fast songs. Of course, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me at worldcfmmusic@gmail.com. I will have a PDF that ties to this lesson. The link for that will be in the description below. This will take you to the website where you can print it off and you can use it as a resource to be able to practice with. So you take that, practice with that. Of course, take some songs, practice some of the strumming patterns that we've gone over to some of those songs, And if you're having any troubles, like I said, reach out to me. I don't want you guys kind of second guessing or not sure if, what type of pattern to play. And if you have a specific song that you would like a strumming pattern for, as long as I know the song, let me know what the song is, more or less how it goes if you can, and I'd be happy to tell you the strumming pattern that I would play, and I'll try to simplify it for you as much as I possibly can, and then of course we'll build up. So get these strumming patterns down, build up, and hopefully by the next lesson you guys will be well on your way to playing a lot of songs. Let me know, how this has helped you guys out. If any of you who are learning guitar, I'd love to hear from you guys. It's always exciting to see, people rising up, getting involved in ministry. And so I want to encourage you to take that step. If God has challenged you to get involved in ministry, if your church doesn't have a song service, be the one that steps out. Be the one that rises up and says, you know what, I want to do something for God. I don't know how to play an instrument. God will really honor that when you step up. And so I know your church will be grateful, your pastor will be grateful, and I know that God is excited when people rise up to do something for Him. So it's a win-win from all standpoints. It's just a matter of, learning the instrument, which you can do that. So take that for what it is. I encourage you guys, you got this. And I look forward to you guys, coming back on the next video. If you can, share this with people around the fellowship. Wherever you may be, let your fellow, disciples in other churches, your own church. If you're a pastor, I'd appreciate if you let the pastors around you know. Just want to provide a resource that will help you all out in building song services, all right? So with that, we're going to bring this video to a close. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.